Welcome to the Atlantico podcast, where we talk about the science behind the Atlantico project, the Atlantic Ocean, and the human adventures experienced along the way. Here, we have conversations with guests from around the world who work together so that we can better understand, manage, and protect the ocean. So let's embark on the journey of Atlantico and discover the world that lies above and beneath the surface of the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. Welcome back to the Atlantico podcast, and in today's episode I'm having a conversation with Mayibongwe Buthelezi, who went on board of the RRS Discovery earlier this year to implement the Atlantico protocols during the Atlantic Meridian Transect. He's here to tell us all about his experience and also the contribution of his efforts to the Atlantico project. Mayi, hi, and welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to hear all about your experience.
Good afternoon.
So if you've listened to our podcast before, I don't know if you have, but if you have, you'll know that I like to start with a quick introduction about our guests. So I'd like to ask you if you can tell me a little bit about yourself and where your connection with the ocean started. What's been your journey like from when you started in marine sciences up to now?
I am currently doing a second year of my Ph.D. at the University of Pretoria, South Africa. But maybe to take you through my background, I was born and grew up in the small village town called Nongoma. It's situated in Kwazulu Natal here in South Africa. So I attended my primary and secondary school from my village schools. Until I finished my secondary school, I did not know anything about my marine sciences. Fast forward, I did my microbiology undergrad degree and honors at the University of Zululand and my master's degree in Stellenbosch University. But it's always interesting when you speak to people who are situated in the inland part of South Africa. The moment you tell them that you are from Kwazulu Natal, they often think that, you're staying closer to the ocean. It wasn't the case with me because I remember very well I got to see the ocean when I was on my school trip. I think I was doing around grade 10 or 11 that time. So that was the first time I got to see the ocean. But I started to enjoy this journey the moment I knew that I was going to work with Prof. Tulani. Since then, I've been exposed and I've participated on various prestigious cruises, like the Marion Relief Voyage, where I got to see the Marion Island, and the Scale Cruise, which went to the marginal ice zone of Atlantic Ocean. From reading the literature review, where I got to read about the biodiversity and how these microorganisms live together as communities, and to get to know the different metabolic lifestyles that they have evolved into and all the system that they are steering in different parts of the ocean. So at the meantime, I do think there's a lot of work that needs to be done because this information is only privy to scientists and normal citizens, especially here in South Africa. They do not know about these earth-sustaining phenomena. So I do think there should be an effective system that allow the flow of this information down to our society. I will have all these experiences without my supervisor, Tulani, thanks to him, and I count them as blessings from God.
Yeah, we work with Tulani and he's a great PI, great researcher, and I have no doubt he's also a great supervisor as well. So if we start by talking about your research, the work you're doing at the moment, so can you maybe explain what it is that you are studying, the field that it sits in, and why it is useful to do these kinds of research?
My PhD project is based on investigating the capacity and the effectiveness of microbial communities. So by microbial communities, I'm referring to bacteria, archaea, single-cell algae that offers ecosystem food web sustenance through the synthesis and the scavenging of organic sulfur metabolites, particularly dimethylsulfoniopropionate. We often call it DMSP. So I do the quantification of DMSP from marine water samples from the Southern Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. And that data, we infer it with microbial genomics. So in that case, it's metagenomics and metatranscriptomics to understand the correlation between DMSP availability and the abundance and the distribution of microbial DMSP cycling marker genes. So my study is motivated by a lot of important previous studies where scientists subject microorganisms into different environmental conditions, for instance, high saline, poor nutrients such as nitrogen, and exposure to oxidants. So these are some of the well-known conditions that trigger microbial physiological response to produce DMSP as an metabolic incentives against the environmental fluctuations. You also find that in some cases, some heterotrophic bacteria, they mainly rely on DMSP as their source of organic sulfur for cell growth and biomass, and other group oxidize the propionate moiety of DMSP as their carbon source. So this is where this field stands on marine microbial ecology. You can put it maybe on applied microbiology and also in molecular biology as well. So the main aim researching DMSP is to understand all these pathways for microbial physiological response to withstand unfavorable conditions, and also with the continuation of ecosystem food web while continuing facilitating other important biogeochemical processes.
That sounds interesting and complex at the same time. I can't say that I'll follow it all completely. But if you try to explain to the like of me, non-experts, so why is it important to study these kind of things? What does it mean if you kind of zoom back and look at the ocean at a wider scale? Why is it important?
Maybe someone, when they look at the ocean, they will just look at water. But when you take a meal of that water, you found an enormous amount of microorganisms, more than 1 million cells. And these microorganisms, they're carrying out important processes that help in the sequestration of carbon, in the cycling of nitrogen. Those are important gases and nutrients in the sustenance of Earth. So all this information, they are in the flow charts of answering all those questions when we talk about the importance of the ocean to give balance on Earth.
Yeah, so tiny little things that have a huge impact on how the ocean behaves and how it provides these ecosystem services that are also important for life in the water, but also life on Earth. And if we now turn to Atlantico, so the Atlantico project, and your recent experience, so you went on board of the Discovery, a ship that is doing this program, the AMT. Can you tell us first a little bit about what the AMT is and what it does, and then maybe what you were doing on board and how what you were doing is contributing to Atlantico?
The AMT is Atlantic Meridional Transit. I participated on the latest one, which is the number 30. It's a multidisciplinary program which undertakes biological, chemical, and physical oceanographic research. And it's an annual cruise between UK and destination in the South Atlantic, including Falklands Island and South Africa. So AMT assists scientists in the identification of long-term trends and also to have a data-based prediction for future outcomes. The resulting data from these AMT cruises is not only valuable to scientific understanding, but also addresses a wider scope of societal concerns, such as sustainability, climate change, and marine ecosystems. Maybe to take you on what I was doing during that cruise, I was collecting seawater samples during the transit every day in the pre-dawn stations, from Falklands Island in the South Atlantic waters to Southampton in the UK and the North Atlantic waters. So those samples, they are part of my PhD. So I was generating data for DMSP and now also with DMSOP, which is Dimethylsulfoniopropionate. So we wanted to look at a partitioning of these two organic sulfur compounds in natural system in the Atlantic Ocean. So collecting data for genomics analysis. So this data is very much important for my thesis, and also it will help us to get some really cool papers out of it. And the nicest thing about the AMT is that during the cruise, there was also complementary data that was generated parallel to my samples or to my data collection as well. And that data will also help us to make a lot more sense from what we got.
And all this data that you collected, it's very important for your thesis, and your thesis will also contribute into the Atlantico project, right?
Yes.
All of this will help us in the wider scope of what we're trying to do in the project. And I want to turn to maybe a more personal questions and ask you about your personal experience on board. So what was it like for you?
Well, first of all, there was a lot of work for me because I was just a team of myself. But nonetheless, it was an amazing experience. I think this cruise had a lot of positive influence on how I think, understand, and even the passion that I have about marine microbiology. Besides that, I got to experience Falklands Island in Stanley. So I went to see the penguins and the beautiful landscape of the island. But to tell you the truth, I wasn't really sure of what to expect because I was the only one from my region here. But with no doubt, I can tell you that it was really an amazing experience to share a space with everyone from that ship, from the captain and his crew, and also a team of scientists. We were always living in harmony. But what was interesting to me as well was to share a space with people who were telling me that they started to do these cruises since 1998. I think I was still learning to walk by then. So I can only learn, and because of the details, the quality and the level of understanding of Atlantic Ocean from those people, from the experience that they have. And to have a chief scientist like Dr. Enderis, who was very much helpful, I think, to everyone and also to me in particular, because at some point I was short of some equipment to work with, but he was always a helpful person to give me whatever that I was in short of. But what was a cherry on top of this cake to me, I got to experience the crossing of the line. And exactly that day, it was my birthday. So it was really an amazing experience to see everyone happy on the ship. And while it was also my birthday, oftentimes people will come like, how did this happen? That it's the biggest day in the ship. And also you're celebrating your birthday. And I was like, if you are choosing one, you are a chosen one. But I owe all these lifetime opportunities to my supervisor, who have exposed me into this greatness and to opportunities that I didn't even know that they existed. And also Stefan and his team for selecting me amongst other people who have applied to be part of the AMT 30 through the Atletico program. And I'm highlighting this because I do believe they were also deserving to be part of the AMT. But thanks to the Atletico program, which thrive on integrating scientists from the southern and the northern hemisphere. So it was really an amazing opportunity.
Hopefully we can get some other people in the next transact and they get to experience what you've experienced on that ship. And it sounds like an experience to be remembered for sure. I'd like to ask maybe a final question for our conversation today, and it's about what's on the horizon for you. What are your dreams and ambitions for the future? Where are you going?
I think it would be unfair if I not mention people like Professor Jonathan Todd from the University of Norwich in the UK. I think his lab is one of the leading DMSP research group. He opened hands to collaborate with us. And all the DMSP and DMSOP measurements, I did it in his lab. And we really have a very active and a fruitful collaboration. And I'm very much thankful to my research group here in University of Pretoria, especially people like Ryan and Oliver. They are very much helpful in guiding us with doing these complicated analysis of metagenomics. But what is immediate now is to get papers and get my PhD. But I am really looking forward to engage even more to Atletico program, be it that I'm helpful in sample collection, laboratory experiments, and genomics data analysis. I'm really looking forward to establish myself collaborating with young scientists who are my peers and also the old and experienced scientists, both locally here in South Africa, Africa, and across the globe. So I am going to continue to work hard until I reach my ultimate future ambition, which is to have my own or to establish my own research group.
Well, and for that, I wish you all the best of luck. And I think you're on a great trajectory to get there, and we'll follow your journey along. And let's see how we can collaborate even more.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayi, for this conversation today. And of course, we carry on the conversation outside of the podcast on the project and carry on our collaboration. We hope that you've enjoyed today's episode and look forward to seeing you next time. You can follow the Atlantico project on our website on www.atlantico.eu, and you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. All the links and information on the project and on today's episode is in the show notes. Atlantico is a project funded under Horizon 2020, a European Union research and innovation programme.